and welcome to Behind the Dean's Desk, conversations from the College of Graduate and Professional Studies at the Chicago School. I'm Dr. Alicia DeWalt, Dean of the College of Graduate and Professional Studies. This series is designed to highlight our community voices, ideas, and professional impact that shape our graduate and professional programs. In each episode, we step away from formal titles and curricula to have a real conversation about the work we do, why it matters, and how it connects to practice in the field. All right, well, today I am joined by Dr. Kelly Torres, who oversees the Educational Psychology and Technology EDD program, the Instructional Design Certificate, and the Graduate Certificate in Online Teaching and Learning in the College of Graduate and Professional Studies. So Kelly's work focuses on how learning science, psychology, and technology intersect to create that meaningful educational experiences, and really works to prepare learners for an evolving digital and AI-driven world. Through both research and practice, Kelly really helps students critically evaluate instruction, solve real-world learning challenges, and design technology-driven approaches that improve learning outcomes. So welcome, Kelly. Thank you so much for joining us on Behind the Dean's Desk.
Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. So that was a lot in your introduction. I would love for us, Kelly, just to start out on how you got here, what interested you in this work, and maybe an overview of what you do now as the department chair.
Most definitely. So I think my journey toward becoming a department chair for the Educational Psychology and Technology program has been really shaped by a steady progression from where I became from a practitioner to an instructional leader and ultimately an academic program leader. I would say early in my career in education, I focused primarily on teaching and supporting learners directly. And then over time, I became increasingly interested in how instructional decisions were made, so how courses were designed, how learning experiences were structured, and how technology could be used more intentionally to improve engagement and outcomes. And that interest has really evolved, I would say, over the last few years, and focusing on how AI is utilized in education and in training organizational settings as well. And that's become a major focus of our program. I think that curiosity in general just has led me to take on expanded responsibilities in curriculum development and instructional support, where I began working closely with faculty and program teams to understand all these different areas. And as my experience grew, I pursued advanced study in educational psychology and technology, which really provided me with a strong foundation in learning theory, instructional systems, and research-informed practice. I think this doctoral preparation really helped me move beyond implementation and into a deeper understanding of how to evaluate and improve learning environments at a systems level. What I think is really attractive about the program in educational psychology and technology is that it really brings together two diverse fields of study that are typically taught separately at most institutions or all institutions, right? So we combine educational psychology with educational technology into a unique field of study. And I think that attracts a lot of students to our program because they can't find another program such as ours at other institutions. And so I think that it makes it very attractive and unique to our students.
Absolutely. I love that blend in your program between those two fields and seeing the impact that makes, but certainly in their final dissertation work and the research that they're doing in that field. I was thinking about, Kelly, as I was preparing for our conversation, when you think about the future of education, right? You talk about how it's been evolving over time. What changes feel in this moment like the most significant to you that we should be aware of, and not only as educators ourselves, but also for your students?
I think definitely AI, is definitely a trending area in our field. And I would say in all disciplines, AI has touched us, with all professions and personally, right? Like in our own lives, we use AI for a lot of different reasons, if it's planning travel or looking for, information, recipes, whatever the case might be. AI has had a major impact, I think, on everyone. In regards to education itself and the workforce, I think we're really in the middle of a major shift, right, in how people learn and work using AI. And AI is no longer considered just an add-on tool. It's becoming something that's really embedded in everyday tasks. So how we think about creating content as instructors or supporting information, to our learners. And because of that, I think it's also changing the kind of skills that students need to be successful. So within our program, on the Educational Psychology and Technology program, we've really taken a deep dive into our curriculum and met with individuals in the workforce to really identify areas in which AI has had a major impact in all the different areas that our students are working. And so that we can make certain that our students really have those career ready skills when they graduate. And so I think it's really important to be intentional with how we prepare our students for what comes next because AI is evolving daily, right? It's more sophisticated than it was a year ago and what it can do and provide us and the different tools that are available. And
Yeah.
so I think, yeah, for me, preparing students for an AI driven workforce is about much more than just teaching them how to use the tools. I think it's really also important to help them develop the ability to think critically about what AI is doing as well. Students need to understand not just how to use AI, right, but how it works at a basic level, what its limitations are, and how to evaluate the outputs it produces. And this includes being able to recognize bias, question whether information is accurate, and then decide when human judgment should take priority when using AI. I also think that ethical piece is really important as AI becomes more evolved in decision making. Students really need to be able to think through issues such as fairness, privacy, and responsible use of information. And I think it can be too easy to rely heavily on technology such as AI, right, if we're
Yeah.
not careful. So helping students develop the awareness and healthy skepticism, I think, is important as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say, Kelly, your program, you are such thought leaders as a department
Mhm.
chair, as their faculty in AI and incorporating it into the curriculum. Um, where would you say, as a university, or for others listening in at the university, what conversation should we be having as educators, administrators about AI and incorporating it into our curriculum or providing it to students?
I think we need to be thoughtful of how we utilize AI so that it's augmenting the learning process, but also helping students again develop those career ready skills. And that might look different across all disciplines of study and how we're using AI. So a lot of our students, for example, work in education or training, and so they're using AI to develop curriculum or to receive feedback on curriculum, rubrics, assessment, training materials. And so meeting with individuals in the workforce, I think, has been really valuable for us. And learning what they're doing with AI, how they're utilizing it within their professions, and then going back and revising our curriculum for those updates. And so but I think that ethical piece, right, is important as well. We don't want students relying heavily on AI, and so they're only generating AI produced work, right, and copying it to our
Right.
classes. That's not benefiting them at all or us. And so I think we need to be thoughtful in curriculum developments. And so that's we're considering how students are learning the information, but then how they're using AI as a tool to enhance that process.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that piece about learning how to use AI to be career ready. And so it's
Mhm.
more right than how to use it for research or to help with writing, but
Mhm.
how are you going to use it in the field and learn about
Mhm.
it, and then in a way that you can put it on your resume as a
Right.
graduate, right? And show how you have actually applied it. And we're seeing more and more now that job descriptions have like fluency in AI. And I think as
Mhm.
educators, we have to figure out like how do we bridge that gap so our students are coming up being able to confidently say, I am AI ready for this field and I have been trained on how to use it. Any thoughts on that area? I keep thinking it's evolving so quickly. Like how do we keep up and feel confident that our students are prepared?
Yeah, I think it's challenging because it is evolving so quickly and changing, and platforms that were free no longer have a pay, they have a paid prescription now, and so it's difficult to give students access to all the tools, right? Some of them are very costly. We think that AI is so important that we're adding a program learning outcome to our curriculum so that our courses are aligned with AI, that students, when they graduate, they have those competency and skill sets. I think that's
Mhm.
really important for them as well. But it's changing and daily, and so we are constantly meeting as a faculty group. We're meeting with our alumni. We're meeting with experts in the field throughout the year to see how it's evolved and
Yeah.
shifted within different professions, so that we can remain current and trending and AI and how we use it. I think that's really important. constantly reading, talking to professionals, just to try to keep up with the trends and what's available is important.
Yeah, I think that's huge that you just touched on and how we work with those in the field, right? And we're so
Hmm.
intentional, either through advisory boards or through
Hmm.
our connections, by really getting to those practitioners so we can
Hmm.
have those real world experiences and
Hmm.
bring them in and leveraging our adjunct faculty too, right? That
Most
are
definitely.
doing that type of work. That's great. Kelly, I'd love to talk about instructional design, which is a huge component of your program and your certificate, and learning science. Could you share a bit about the difference between using technology in education and designing meaningful experiences with technology? So the distinction between those two and maybe how you implement that or go about uh, making that happen.
Yeah, so I think that we first have to think about the purpose of technology. It's great that we're innovative. We have all these different technologies, infused throughout our curriculum. It makes us look, trending, students get excited. But if the intent of the technology is not to augment the learning process, actually can cause frustration, cognitive overload. Students are spending more time trying to navigate a new tool than to learn the
Mhm.
content that you're trying to provide them, right? So I'm thinking in regards to technology, it's really important to identify the learning outcomes first, right? What are we trying to accomplish and the tools that can help them achieve that. So not just integrating technology for the sake of having it, but really thinking through that process and what it means to have that technology infused within the class. Because our degree program has technology within the title, right? Educational psychology and technology. We have a lot of different types of tools integrated throughout our curriculum. I think on the last count, we had 50 different types of
Oh,
technologies
wow.
that students, yes, a lot, will explore. And a lot
Mhm.
of these tools are new to students, are just new ways to think about using them. So we're seeing like PowerPoint and Canva, those might be common tools for students, but how can you use the new AI features, right, to
Mm.
enhance
Yeah,
your presentation materials? So really thinking through what it means to have those tools, why we're integrating them. Um, just as simple as having voiceover. So a lot of times we'll have students create maybe a presentation, for example, and do we want them to have their own voiceover, or is it okay to have an AI tool use that, create that voiceover? And explaining to students when you would use their own voice as versus, the AI voiceover. So really thinking through that process, I think is important, the purpose of the assignment, what the learning outcome is, and how the tool will shape that learning experience.
that's great. And so you walk the walk, right, in building
Mm-hmm.
curriculum like that. Are you teaching the students in the program for their own fields, their own career development, and how you go through that process? Do they experience like that type of project in the program and working with technology and inserting it into a curriculum in some way?
Most definitely. And what I think that's a great question. What's also unique about our program, we are a practitioner focused program. So we are preparing students to be able to apply what they're learning directly into their professional experiences right away. And a lot of students do that. They'll complete an assignment in class and then immediately apply it into their classroom or training or
Nice.
organization, wherever they work. Yes.
Yeah.
We also provide them a lot of autonomy in how they complete their assignments, which increases motivation, engagement, and relevancy
Hmm.
to the learning process. So, for example, we might say for this assignment, their learning outcome, whatever that case might be, but you can achieve that learning outcome by creating a curriculum. You can achieve it by creating a training material. What's most relevant to you in your professional setting, and we'll give them multiple options on how to complete it so that they are having those practitioner based experiences and implementing it right away. And a lot of students do, they'll share back to us. I've just implemented, for example, this e-portfolio system into my
Nice.
classroom setting. My students are watching their growth across the year. It's been really amazing to see that and to share that with their parents. So we try to make it very practical to our students and meaningful as well.
That's fantastic. And then how does that shape into their doctoral capstone work? I know you have a new model I'd love for you to share, but does that type of learning then flow into their final assignment as it's related to technology, or what does that process look like for your students?
Most definitely. And so for our program, we really want to prepare students for that capstone experience. I think for a lot of doctoral students, that might be one of the most anxiety provoking
Yeah,
aspects, right?
was
Of
for me.
completing, yes, yes, their doctoral coursework. So we, from the first class, we have them thinking about their capstone. They don't have to necessarily keep that same topic throughout, but we do want them to reflect on what that might look like. And so we have these capstone focused assignments integrated into every class throughout our program of study. And they're creating a OneDrive, and they're also saving different assignments that they completed in specific classes that will help them with that process. So we'll say, we'll tell them that the capstone work is an iterative process. It's focused
Yeah.
on different areas. And so, for example, you'll have to have a theoretical framework, right, integrated into your project. Here are some frameworks you learn. So you'll do a project or a paper around this, and then you'll save it so that you can then pull from that or look at that whenever you complete the capstone process. I think that has made the process less, anxiety provoking for our
Yeah.
students, less intimidating, but it also gives them an idea of what to expect about the capstone work before they actually get to their first capstone course. We have tried to make that experience as meaningful to them as possible as well. And so we're offering right now two capstone options, and a third that will be launching this fall. In which students, if they want to, for example, be a faculty member in higher education, and that traditional dissertation is still very important to them, so
Right.
that they
Hmm.
can, right, guide students through that process, they're able to select that pathway. Another option is our research, action research project. And so students in that particular track have identified an issue or a problem of practice within their professional setting that they really want to resolve or find, a new process for. And so they're actually able to conduct that research directly in their professional setting, if it's within a classroom or training or organization. And so
Nice.
that's really meaningful to them, right? They want
Yeah.
to not necessarily go into higher education, but they want to make an impact within their own setting. And then our students this fall will have the opportunity to also select an option focused on our professional practice project. And so that is in which they'll determine a particular project within their professional setting. Maybe it's designing a curriculum or a technology implementation plan, or maybe they're creating, a training program for either, professional development for K through 12 educators, or maybe their organization. And their entire project will be revolved around that type of product.
That's exciting. I get
Yes.
excited thinking about the kind of projects that will come out of that and the
Mhm.
ability to truly apply what you're
Mhm.
learning into your career for your own career progression. Like having that work
Mhm.
be meaningful in that way, I think is
Mhm.
just so important for our students who are typically in their full-time career and working to level up their education. So thank you for that. It's such an innovative model that I'm so
Thank
excited
you.
to like see at the Chicago school and hope that we continue to grow and expand on that in other areas too.
Definitely.
Kelly, as you were talking about the rigor of, identifying these projects and going through this work and the dissertation work, how how do you work to design your program, design the courses to be, of course, academically rigorous, right? But also in a supportive, inclusive online environment when we're typically asynchronous. Are there like human-centered design strategies to support that, support engagement? Could you share what that looks like in your program?
Most definitely. So I think for a lot of students, even though they have very busy lives, and that's one reason that they select online programs, or maybe as I was saying before, our program is so unique that they can't find something similar to it in an on-ground setting, so they select our program. But we still want them to feel connected to their peers and their instructors, right? Because that has a huge impact on their success in the program, their retention in the program, as well as their experiences throughout, if it was positive
Yeah.
for them or not. So we are very intentional in having those touch points throughout, so that they don't feel like they're learning in silos. They don't feel disconnected from everyone. So, for example, some of our classes will have a critical friend assignment. So they're partnered with another student. They do different activities throughout the course. they've exchanged phone numbers, so they're texting, and some of them become such amazing friends just throughout that experience. We've also created an advising model as well as a communication model for our students, in which we're now using an online platform, Remind, so that we can communicate directly with the students. They can communicate that with us, similar to a texting format,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
as we've seen with a lot of students, they prefer to text, right, than a phone call or maybe email. It's much quicker for them as well. So if they need to have a question answered very quickly, they can send a direct message to the faculty member, and that's been very widely positively received by our students and faculty as well. And that helps provide them, some connection. Um, to the program. We've also integrated, different types of group activities. So students are connected and working together through, they meet through Zoom or telephone, and then they report back on that, or even peer review activities. So there's some way that they're engaging throughout their courses. I think that's really important to help them feel connected to the class, as well as their instructor and peers. We've had students even tell us that they feel more connected in our online program than they did on their on-ground programs, which I think speaks highly to how intentional
Yeah.
we are throughout to make them feel, part of our learning community.
Absolutely. Um, And Kelly, as you were talking, I was thinking about how much you engage students also through your global initiatives. And I feel like I can't have a conversation with you without talking about your global work. And so, do you mind just sharing like about your global initiatives, about some of the research you do? I think it really underscores our engaged practitioner model that we have at the Chicago School in your own work that you're doing.
Yes, most definitely. So I'm really deeply committed to international education and the role it plays in broadening perspectives and strengthening cultural understanding for our students. And I find study abroad experiences particularly valuable because they allow our learners to connect academic concepts with real world global context,
Yeah.
while they're also developing, right, these cultural awareness, adaptability, and reflective thinking. These experiences serve as transformative opportunities that really extend their learning beyond the classroom setting and provide students with unique professional skills. I always tell students when I meet with them about for study abroad that the experiences that you'll have in study abroad go beyond if you were to travel there as a tourist, right? We're visiting
Yeah.
businesses and educational systems, and you have these authentic conversations with individuals there that you might not have the opportunity to if you're just traveling there as a tourist. So I think they're really important in students, developing new perspectives of their profession, in an international context. It's also a great opportunity for them to put this on their CV or resume or to share, with
Hmm.
prospective employers. It increases marketability for students as well. So I always tell students if you have the opportunity to travel abroad, take advantage of it if possible, because it's just a great opportunity. I'm also very passionate about contributing to different international initiatives that particularly focus on areas such as trauma informed training and youth leadership development. These areas are especially important to me because they emphasize both support and empowerment. So, trauma informed approaches ensure that our learning environments are safe, responsive, and sensitive to individual experiences. I mean, I've done a lot of this training in different African countries over the last few years with educators, social workers. It's just had such a huge impact on me as well. And then youth leadership really development really focuses on cultivating confidence, agency, and long-term growth in emergent leaders. And so I've had the opportunity to work with some really amazing young teens in India on developing youth leadership skills. We've provided both synchronous in-person training as well as asynchronous training modules for them to develop these skill sets.
Just absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much, Kelly, for the
Of
work
course.
that you're doing and providing opportunities for our students to increase their global competency, which just becomes more and more critical, I think,
Mhm.
in the field as we just become ever more interconnected as a society. So thank you for that. I think we could spend an entire episode talking about your global work and study abroad,
Mhm.
and we might have to soon because I love talking about it. Um,
Yeah.
well, on that note, what gives you the most optimism about the future of education and learning?
So I'm just really excited that with all the different technologies that are available that impact the learning process and what we're able to do and accomplish and provide our students, I think that education is constantly evolving, right? And how we provide those services to our learners and just using different types of technologies to augment that process, I think is really exciting as more become available. And I think that the field of educational psychology is just going to have such a tremendous impact, continuing forward because we need to understand how technology impacts our learning processes. And so our program is really designed to help our learners develop those skill sets and be able to provide meaningful experiences to the learners that they come in touch with every day.
Yeah, and I just appreciate you and your faculty and always like being on top of it and modernizing your curriculum and being with the times, which I think is so challenging in your field,
Mm-hmm.
especially now with AI and needing
Mm-hmm.
to ensure that we keep it updated, ensuring that our students are career ready. So thank you for that work.
Yeah.
Uh, Kelly, I'm going to leave you with one final question, which is my typical question for you. So, as we step away from titles and roles, what's one thing you hope people better understand about learning and evolving education and why it matters beyond the classroom?
Yeah, so I would say it's really important, and at the core of my work really is just a strong commitment to creating these learning environments that are inclusive and engaging and grounded in both research and practice. I think that's really important. And how theory can be translated into actionable strategies that improve real learning experiences. Rather than remaining abstract or disconnected for practice, I think that we need to be very intentional with it. So for me, effective education really happens when instructional decisions are intentionally designed with both evidence-based research, but also the lived experience of learners in mind. And so each cohort, each group of students that you work with might
Yeah.
have different needs, right? And different expectations. So as educators and faculty members, we're constantly reflecting on that process and how we can best meet our students' needs. I place a high value on bridging the gap between theory and application. And this means not only understanding learning theories and instructional models, but also actively applying them in ways that support both educators and learners as well. And I think a key part of this is helping both instructors and the students feel confident and capable of working with technology. That's really important. So rather than just viewing technology as something complex or intimidating, learning environments should really integrate these tools that are accessible and enhance our instruction, engagement, and overall learning experiences. I think that's really important. And I think that my work is really driven by a desire to create meaningful, inclusive, and impactful learning experiences and support learners across diverse contexts. So whether that might be in traditional classrooms or online environments or even international settings, my goal is to really help build learning spaces that are thoughtful, research informed, and deeply connected to real world needs and experiences.
That's fabulous. So well said. Thank you so much, Kelly, for
Thank you.
spending some time with me behind the dean's desk. So wonderful to talk to you about the work that you do. And hopefully, we'll have you back on soon to talk about your global work. So thank you.
We love that. Thank you.